Alrighty, so now it's time to work on querying part 3. And I'm going to go ahead and go into this item at this point, and you might be a little overwhelmed for the first couple assignments for Monday. I'll give you a little hope or a little nice preview is that you don't actually have to complete all of this one, but if you want, you can. I do give you a break here, so we'll talk about that. All right, so actually I'm recording a new video this semester, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the instruction file and I have it open here in a tab. Okay, so in this case, we're going to be working on part 3. Now we're going to do a little setup work. I'm going to walk you through this because this is something we've learned about last time, which is how to create that query file. We learned about how to do the proof of work, but now we're actually going to take the base file, copy it, create a new file, and then I'll walk you through just generally how to flow through this content, okay? All right, so over here, I still have my code space open, and this is from me finishing the part 2. Okay, so in this case, my proof of work, right? And I'm just showing you this because it helps us lead into this part 3. So that was my first query, right? This is my second, and then my third query. Okay, so this is the proof of work from part 2, right? But what we're going to do here is we're actually going to create a new file, and we're going to call that part 3. And this, what this allows us to do is then specifically go back and find things that we wrote for a specific assignment. And it's just another way to learn how to do file management, okay? So now what we're going to do here is we're going to create over in our code space, right? So I'm going to create, and this is where it's important when you're creating new files. I'm going to say create, and in this case, new file. I'm going to call it p3-q.sql. And if you, by this point, you probably already feel this. It's very important that you name files as far as the uppercase, lowercase, and the syntax at which I give them to you. It's totally important, okay? So now I have a new file, it has nothing in it. So I'm going to go over to my P3. I'm going to hit Control A. I'm going to copy all that here. And I'm going to close this because I don't want to get confused. I'm going to paste that over. Now, why am I pasting it over and then closing it first is so that I don't mess this file up because it contains the work that you did for part 2. Okay. Now we're going to modify this file. Okay. We're going to modify this file with things that are specific to part 3 as far as the proof of work, because we already have a proof of work from part 2. And now we want a proof of work from part 3, so we go, instead of doing, because if we left it this way, it would overwrite that file, or append it, which is not what we want. We're actually going to name this POW, proof of work 3. Okay, so again, make sure you're in this new file that we created, right? And now here, these are the queries we wrote last time. So I'm going to get rid of everything here except that first print. Okay, now if you want to bring it back, but you'll see me start saying use this actually to document the queries. Okay, very helpful. And in this case, we have to modify one other thing here, which is now instead of when we run that proof of work, right, we're actually going to now run that proof of work 3. Right, so now we've done all the required changes back here, right? We've modified the proof of work itself. And now one other thing we need to do before we actually do our first commit, okay? So in the README file, oh, did I have you take notes on part 2? Oh yeah, I did. I forgot. Okay, so now in the README file, so now you'll have some notes there. So it'll be week 2 querying, if I know how to spell it, part 3. Okay, so this, because in this case, you are going to take some more notes for this one. Okay, so now that you've done those 2 things, we're ready for your first commit message. And this is one of the things I think in doing the last one I may not have been as clear about, but anytime you see a commit message, that means you're doing the get workflow. Okay, I'm going to cover this in a minute, but I'm just reminding you as we move through here. So now you would come to the terminal. Now, if you had closed your code space between now and then, totally fine. You'll bring it back, right? You'll add your other terminal, right? So if I was to, and it wouldn't be a bad thing for me to stop this completely, come back here, go to terminal, go to new terminal, be like, yeah, I'm good. And then I could add another one. So I'd have two bash terminals. If you remember, I have to be in the querying directory. Cool. And I need to do that for both of them, right? So I could do CD. Remember, I showed you multiple ways. So you could right click as well. That's your other way, is I'm going to come here. But I think learning command line is cool. Q, tab, cool. All right. So now I have both of my sessions here. I have my querying file. So now in one of these, and it doesn't matter which one, I'm going to run the SQLite 3 longlist.db. Okay, so now I'm ready to actually code along, right? I'm ready. Oh, did I do? Oh, yeah. I'm glad we talked about this. Oh, good. You know, it's always interesting when I start doing something, I'm like, okay, I got to stop. Because what I realize I didn't do, and this is kind of me showing you, this is kind of what happens sometimes. And if you happen to do a little further, right, you can either make another commit, or in your notes, especially in these first couple of weeks, definitely more understanding. If you miss something, just tell me you missed it, and then I will take that into account when I do this. So in this case, right, and I haven't made any changes except added that file, so I'm fine. I was just doing some setup. But in doing that setup, I forgot to say the reason I was doing it was that on the bash where we run the proof of work is also where we do the git workflow. So git add star, git commit. Okay, so making sure I'm in the bash, because you can't run the git commands in the SQLite. That was the point I think I was not clear about last time, so apologize for anybody that ran into that. So now I'm going to do this commit message, query file and readme ready. So query file and readme. And by the way, readme does need to be uppercase, and it's really the only file we use uppercase on. Okay, end quote. Cool. Now, if I wanted to, again, I don't have to until the very end when I'm actually going to submit. So this one will be different in the sense that you will submit your commit history, and I'll talk about that right at the end. Okay, so now we've done the setup. And we don't have to copy the file because we're using the same file. So now what you're going to do is you're going to start watching at 2149, follow along with Carter, and write the SQL command in the terminal, right? And then when they run without error, right, then copy them into here, right? And now in this case, there will be a total of 6 queries, right? So you will end up, right? So first, and by the way, now I want you to actually use this to describe, right? Describe the query. It can be short, that's cool. So then this will be your first whatever you're writing. Now I'm not going to write the queries here. I'm just going to give you an example, right? From long list, let's say that was the first one, because remember, you're writing them down here. I'm going to come back here, right? I just wrote it in here, probably not the way I should have shown you, because I want to keep it clear. Like, so let's do it here, author, right? From, I don't think that's one of the ones from here, but the point is that you're writing the queries here, right? And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. If I got out, I have to do mode box. I can up arrow, run that again. Cool. Once I know it works the way it's supposed to, right? I could bring that back. So that's my first one. And then I'd be like, okay, dot print, describe. Now these are single quotes, describe second query. Query is a combination of all the SQL commands. That one does not have, this print does not have to have the semicolon. This does for it to work, okay? So you will end up here, right? So you will have multiple queries that are uncommented, right? So in here, you'll end up with 6. You're using the where. So now we're learning how to actually specify. So not only are we saying, hey, we only want to see these columns, but we're actually now being more specific by giving it the where where, and then all the different ways we can specify where some condition is existing. So we learn operators and not on this one, okay? So once you have your 6 queries using the where, okay, so again, all of them, I'm not written them here, it's going to look different on your side. Once you've done that, then you go over to bash, right? And you're like, okay, do my proof of work, all right? So my proof of work is here. Now, my proof of work is not correct, right? Yours is going to be those 6 queries. I'm going to paste that. I'm in the querying subdirectory. I'm in my bash terminal. I'm going to run that. I now have my proof of work 3. That contains the output from your, again, this, this is just me giving you demonstration. You're going to have 6 queries using where, right? And when you, and check that file, right? So we can see, right? This is, when you look through here, as a matter of fact, I think what I may do here is in the instruction give you how many lines this should be, right? So there's, just to kind of be helpful. So, and now, right, so now I have that done. I'm going to do, I did my proof of work, right? So now we complete the proof of work. We just did that. And now we do the get workflow and use where operators and not. So now we're going to go in the bash. We're still there. So now I'm going to just clear this to make it a little more clean. So I'm going to do get add star. Now I have one modified file and one new file. Okay, so I've staged it, get commit -m. Now I don't even remember what I had. Where operators and not, so where, comma, operators and not. Now not in this case, and where our actual commands operators are different operators you're learning. Cool. Now that I have that one, right? So now I've done this and we've committed with this message, right? And now before you go on to the next one, right, we're going to comment out the previous one. So now I'm going to click and I'm doing command /, right? And now I'm going to write the next ones, right? So I'm going to write the queries here. I'm going to continue, write queries in the terminal, and there'll be 2 here, right? And then now you're going to actually, so this is actually writing queries, and so this is actually taking some notes. So what you will do here is go to your README file, right? And then write your understanding. I do not want to see I want to, your understanding is important here of what not and or, okay? And in this case, the brackets, right? Because there's something specific to those. And what you'll do is use a heading 2. So you'll come over here, right? So you will use, now I'm just giving you an example. So here's your heading 2, right? So then you will use, for this content, right? And you can, I'm not telling you the heading, but make a heading up that is related to what we're doing here. Could you use the commit message? Sure, but you could also come up with something on your own, okay? And then you would do that here, all right? And then in this case, right, you actually, because this particular commit contains both notes and queries, you will do the proof of work and the get workflow, okay? This particular commit, when I look at it, will contain both notes that you wrote from here and queries, right? And then we'll talk about the break in a minute, but then when you pick up afterwards, remember, you got to comment out those queries on that previous one. Okay, now what I do, and you'll see me do this, is I give breaks. Because I know week 2 attendance was a bit, okay? And I just do this in general. And if you saw the words of wisdom from the students from previous, they say take the breaks if you need them, right? So if you need a break, heads up, at this point, you could go ahead and write and do get push, or even if you weren't, if you're going to continue on, you could do it. Right? And so what you would do, and I'm just going to actually show you this. I'm going to go to my demo private, right? Because I'm going to show you how to actually prove that you actually did up until the break. And now you get to finish by Thursday night. Now Thursday night there will be a review. Actually, that'll be the last thing for the week. But at least if you get this part done, right? So now I can see, oh yeah. So I come into this querying directory. I come into my commit history. Now my commit history It's going to look a little different than yours. Don't worry about it. The most important thing is this is the URL that you give to the assignment. So unlike attendance, right? But like week 1, where you actually had to give me the URL for your commit, this is what you would give me here. Now, I'm not in it as a student, but you provide the URL, and then you would give me that commit history, right? This is the format, right? And again, if you're taking the break, then you would give it to me. And you could, by the way, say in the comment, because there's a way to actually put a comment that says I'm taking a break. And that helps me understand. And by the way, what I will do is go in and look and give you any feedback for what you've already done, so that when you do the rest of it, if there's something I see, then you can fix that and not lose points for it when I ultimately go to grade. Okay, so again, if you want to take the break, complete it by Thursday. What that really means is Friday morning, because the next due date is Thursday night, and I don't grade until the next morning. But the sooner the better, because then you could have a complete graded assignment. So just looking through here, you'll continue to write the wheres using null, is not null. In this case, you'll have 2 queries, right? You'll stop, and in your README file take some notes. So in this case, we have the proof of work and the get workflow, because we have some notes here and we have some queries here. And then here's your commit message, right? And then once you have those 2 queries, you'll comment those out when you continue on here. And again, this is the way it flows. So here you're writing queries, maybe 7 if you did the select, right? So 6 or 7 here. And then at stop, and in the README file, your understanding of these commands using H2. I didn't specify it here, but up here I did. So there's your H2 markdown. Okay, and then in this case, once you finish, always make sure you push to GitHub, because your commit history won't reflect if you don't when I go to look at it. But once you complete the assignment all the way to the end, here's what I will look for. Ooh, I need to fix that. Okay, is provide the correct URL for the commit history. I'll modify that. Do all the commits, are all the commits there? Does your query file contain the queries written? So when I look at your file here, it should contain all the queries. Now what will happen is the last ones you wrote might not be commented, which is fine, but everything else should be, because of the workflow that we're doing. Okay. I'll fix this. Does your POS, and it should just be 3, contain all the query output? Okay. Did you include all the required content in the README file? Okay. So that's how it's graded. That's the work you need to do. Take the break if you want. Have fun with this, because this is really fundamental stuff that you're learning, and I hope you're having a good time with it. All right. Talk to you later.